this podium about the start.
All right, let's go live to Ontario.
I explained the urgency of the situation and issued a call to arms as we dramatically increase our capacity to administer booster doses. Already, we're seeing tremendous response. In one short week, we've doubled our vaccine capacity as it continues to grow every single day. And I want to thank everyone who stepped up once again to roll up their sleeves. But as I said, sitting back, playing defense is not an option. We need to meet this variant head on. We need to do everything we can to push it back. Over the coming days and weeks, daily COVID cases will continue to accelerate, with Omicron being the most transmissible variant we've seen yet. But while our intensive care units remain stable, we expect the number of admissions to grow as more people catch COVID, particularly the unvaccinated. The experts have been very clear. Nothing will stop the spread of Omicron. It's just too transmissible. What we can do, and what we're doing, is slowing it as much as possible to allow more time for shots to get into arms. In order to give our vaccine blitz the time it needs, in order to protect our hospitals from being overwhelmed, we need to implement further public health measures. Dr. Moore will be sharing details with you shortly on what this means and what impact it will have on the weeks ahead. But first, let me say this. The decision to limit people's ability to gather, especially during holidays, is an extremely, extremely difficult one to make. And I know these measures will have an impact on businesses during the important season. That's why Ontario joins Quebec's call for the federal government to expand supports for businesses and workers. And we're prepared to do our part as well. Over the coming days ahead of these measures coming into effect, we will be exploring every option to provide more supports. Friends, this variant is unlike anything we've seen. And if we don't take every single precaution we can, the modeling tells a scary story. And we need only to look to the other jurisdictions to see that modeling play out. Right now, the United Kingdom is facing a tidal wave of Omicron infections that threatens the entirety of their health system. This is only weeks after the variant was first detected. We cannot allow that scenario to take hold here. The UK experience is an urgent call for action. As always, we will do whatever it takes. We will act cautiously. Now, before I hand it over to Dr. Moore, I want to speak directly to the parents out there. I know you're concerned about your kids' schools and what to expect after the new year. I can tell you this, no decision has been made on what that looks like yet. We are simply not in the position to say the situation is evolving too quickly to be able to know where we'll be in early January. But what we're working on every single day with the goal of doing whatever is necessary to protect students and staff. Friends, I know you're all tired. Over the last 20 months, you've been asked to sacrifice so much. We've all dug so deep, and now we need to dig a little deeper. We'll get through this, and the best way each of us can help is by getting vaccinated. Getting your booster, please do so as soon as you possibly can. I want to thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario. Now I'll hand it over to Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Premier. Like many jurisdictions around the world, Ontario is facing a serious threat from the rapidly spreading Omicron variant. The situation continues to evolve rapidly, and the modeling that was released yesterday is clear. Unless action is taken quickly, there could be severe consequences. There is an urgent need to help curb transmission so we can get as many vaccines into arms as possible, ensuring our hospital capacity is preserved. To further strengthen Ontario's response to Omicron and limit opportunities for transmission, the province is applying a 50% capacity limit in indoor public settings, such as restaurants, bars, gyms, pharmacies, grocery stores, shopping malls, and personal care services. To further reduce mobility and social contacts, additional protection measures are being introduced, including prohibit food or drink service in specific settings, such as sporting events, concert venues, theaters and cinemas, casinos, bingo halls, and other gaming establishments and racing tracks. We will limit the number of people that can sit together to 10 per table in restaurants and meeting or event spaces. It would also require patrons to remain seated. Patrons must also remain seated at concert venues, theaters, and cinemas. Prohibit dancing and singing except for workers or performers. Require restaurants, bars, and other food or drink establishments and meeting and event spaces and strip clubs that serve food and drink like a restaurant to close at 11 p.m. except for takeout and delivery. And restrict the sale of alcohol after 10 p.m. and consumption of alcohol in business or settings after 11 p.m. And finally, for informal social gatherings, there will be a limit of 10 people indoors and 25 people outdoors. These measures come into effect on Sunday, December 19th, 2021 at 12:01 a.m. I know this is not the situation any of us wanted to be in, especially during the holiday season. But it's clear Omicron will not take a holiday. These measures will give us time to continue to vaccinate more Ontarians with booster doses that provide an additional layer of protection against Omicron. Millions of Ontarians will be eligible to book an appointment for their booster starting on Monday. Please get yours as soon as you are eligible. And if you still need your first or second dose, now is the time. We all have a role to play in keeping ourselves, our friends, families, neighbors, and communities safe during this holiday season. Please follow all public health and workplace safety measures. These measures have worked before and will help us get through this. Follow social gathering limits and minimize the number of gatherings you attend and the number of people you gather with throughout the holiday season. Stay home if you have symptoms, even if they are mild, or if you are in quarantine or self-isolating. Together, we will get through this. Thank you.
We'll go to the phone line for questions. First question, please.
From Lorenda Redekop at CBC.
Hi, Loretta.
Premier, 2 days ago, you announced only the restrictions for the large venues. You had seen the modeling from the science table at the time. Why didn't you do this 2 days ago?
Well, this is moving quickly, Loretta, and over the last 2 days, we've seen increases in London and Toronto and Peel Region, New York, right across the board. And so we're moving. As this moves rapidly and is very fluid, we're going to be moving rapidly and fluid.
Follow up?
2 days ago, I asked you why you weren't adding the capacity limits for bars and restaurants. And you said comparing them to the larger venues, it was like comparing apples and bananas, I believe you said.
That. Absolutely.
The health experts do say that, you know, these are venues where spread is happening and it can happen. Did you make a mistake with your comments? Did you mislead Ontarians?
No, Loretta, no, I never purposely ever mislead anyone. There is a big difference between having 20,000 people in a stadium or even going 50%, 10,000, compared to the responsible restaurant owners, and they're all responsible as far as I'm concerned, checking the QR codes, making sure they're distance the tables, making sure we keep no more than 10 people to the table. So they're acting very responsible.
Next question.
From Jeff Gray at the Globe and Mail.
Hi, Jeff.
Oh, hi, Premier. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, I guess, just if you could talk a little bit about we're going into this holiday season, and the science table has said we've got to do something that cuts human contact between humans by 50%. We've got Christmas dinner coming. You've just said you can only have 10 people at Christmas dinner. Are these measures, do you think, going to be enough to do what we need to do to avert the worst here?
Yeah, I'm taking the advice from the Chief Medical Officer, and this is probably a good question for Dr. Moore to answer.
Well, thank you for the question. Our goal now is to try to slow the virus down, as we said, to try to build our immunity through the immunization strategy and the first, second, and third dose strategy. That is integral over the next coming weeks for every Ontarian to take advantage to get immunized. This purpose is to slow the virus down as best we can, but I want to warn Ontarians, this is a very aggressive virus. It spreads very quickly. Everyone has an individual responsibility to try to limit their total number of contacts. The government, I believe, has taken their responsibility to limit capacities in certain venues, but we all have to be in this together. We all have to take the appropriate precautions. Ontarians have been brilliant in limiting the spread of Delta. I think we can apply it again to Omicron, even though it's a more aggressive adversary. I trust Ontarians to do their best to try to protect each other, to remain calm, to remain caring and considerate, and take all of these recommendations seriously. This is a difficult time for our province, but I trust Ontarians to do their best to try to limit the spread of this virus and at the same time promote immunization for those that are the most vulnerable to this virus.
Follow-up?
And maybe just going back at a little bit of what changed over the past just 2 days. We've heard from the science table. We've heard Dr. Uni talking about a tsunami. Dr. Brown's comments yesterday. Was that what changed your mind, or Quebec, their move yesterday? What made the government make this move today?
Well, again, we always get our advice through the experts. But this is moving rapidly, and there could be possible changes in another week. It could change as we see these numbers accelerate. And I'm just being upfront with people, these numbers will accelerate. So everyone has a responsibility in Ontario to be cautious throughout the Christmas break there. Don't have a large number of people. We're asking for 10, be cautious, and be prudent.
Next question.
From Richard Southern at City News 680.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, Premier. Good afternoon. Businesses and business organizations are already speaking out, wondering how they're going to make it through this. Can you tell me, Premier, why you're not announcing any new financial support for businesses and for bars and restaurants today?
Yeah, well, I'll hand that over to the Minister of Finance. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Richard, for that question. There's a lot of businesses, small businesses in particular, have been hit hard through the last 21, 22 months, and we've provided a lot of supports. We will be looking at providing supports. We're going to be targeted and look at necessary supports given the circumstances, which is the capacity limits differences that we've got here, and we'll have something to say in the very near future. So thanks for the question.
Follow-up?
Thank you. Premier, two quick things here. Why wait? You keep talking about going on the offense. This is a virus that's doubling every 2 days. Why wait till Sunday to put these measures in place? And as well, what are you doing to speed up booster doses? We're hearing from those 50 plus who are struggling to book doses, never mind those 18 and over. Thank you, Premier.
Yeah, so let me put that into perspective, Richard, and thank you for the question. We just can't put this on the backs of small businesses and restaurants that have inventory of food. We're reducing capacity by 50%, and that will allow them to deal with the inventory issues as well. And as for the the booster shots, as you mentioned, hey, we doubled the amount of people getting booster shots literally in a week. And I think we've proved before, we went down this avenue before, and we performed as a province. I don't talk about the government. I'm talking about the frontline healthcare workers, the docs, the volunteers, the vac centers, the companies. We've reached out to endless amounts of companies to ask for their help. So we're making big moves on this. And that, if there was ever a success story, the success story of the people and the businesses and the frontline healthcare workers of this province, how quickly they have moved in less than a week. And we're going to continue to watch the tests grow. Yesterday was 158,000 and change. That goes within a week back to 35,000. And we're going to continue to grow those numbers. And our goal is always to push it well beyond 200,000. Last Last cases that we had, and then we had to give the shots out, I think our highest was 260,000. But make no mistake about it, Richard, there's no one better than our pharmacists, than our frontline healthcare workers and volunteers that are going to give shots in people's arms. No one's better in the world.
Next question.
From Charlie Pinkerton at iPolitics. Please go ahead.
Hi, Charlie.
Hi, everyone. My first question is for Dr. Moore. There's some suspicion that Omicron, while more infectious, may actually be less harmful than previous variants. Is there a date that you believe will have enough data to determine whether or not this is the case and potentially be able to reassess how many COVID cases this province can handle without locking down like this?
Well, great question, and I want to assure Ontarians we're following the data very closely. We don't want to create over concern regarding this. We want everyone to remain calm, to be assured that we're following the data every single day. We're counting every case in Ontario that's Omicron. We're following them up clinically to see if they need to be admitted to hospital. So far, we've had 2 individuals in hospital out of over 1,000 that have been detected to be Omicron variant. We're in regular contact with the health officials of South Africa, of England, and of Denmark. We're monitoring those situations very closely. Once we get better understanding of the severity of this virus, we'll communicate that to all Ontarians. At present, it's affecting a younger population. We're very concerned about how it could infect others, so those that are older, and hence the reason this government has put in such protective measures for the long-term care sector, our retirement homes and our seniors, to best protect them and learn from the last 20 months. We've been very aggressive in partnership with the Ministry of Long-Term Care and all long-term care partners to best protect those that are vulnerable to this virus in advance of not understanding completely the virulence of this virus. So we'll be transparent. We'll be monitoring the data every single day. We need to absolutely understand the effects of this virus. If we're finding that it's not virulent, we'll communicate that, and perhaps public health measures can be modified in response to further understanding of this virus. What we're doing today is in an abundance of caution to further understand this virus and to protect Ontarians, because we're seeing it transmit very rapidly, and we want to understand once it affects older populations, if it's going to have an effect on our health system. So I know everyone wants certainty. There is a level of uncertainty at present, but rest assured, we're working day in and day out to get better science to this.
Follow-up?
Great, and I ask this question because, while it's my personal situation, I'm sure it's many people's out there. Given the current state of things and how cases have rapidly accelerated in the last few days, as a twice vaccinated person with no symptoms of COVID-19, should I feel safe or feel it's worth the risk to see a grandparent who's had 3 vaccine shots over the holidays?
I personally would advise you to avoid social contact with anyone older, even with 2 doses. If you are going to interact, I'd do it outdoors with masking and distancing in place. I hope the weather stays reasonable across Ontario to enable that, because I think all of us have to learn from the last 20 months to best protect those that are older in our communities. I'm sorry to recommend that. I'd obviously have to understand your complete situation, but off the top of my head, that would be my first reaction is if you're going to meet with them, do it outdoors, distance, masked. If you're going to go indoors, I would prefer that you get your 3rd dose. Interacting with anyone vulnerable over the holidays, I'm quite concerned with, and hence the measures we put in today and the recommendations we put in today.
Last question.
From Nicole Thompson at the Canadian Press.
Hi, I'm wondering why exclude weddings, funerals, and religious services from these restrictions when weddings in particular are, large gatherings where people are in close contact and often not wearing masks to eat.
So the exclusion was in particular just to the ceremony, and the ceremony will have all precautions on masking and distancing, screening, hand hygiene, and obviously for a funeral, these are unpredictable events, sadly, that occur, and we want to give the freedom to individuals to be able to mourn appropriately and not infringe anymore their personal rights. But I want to assure Ontarians we've put in the precautions necessary to protect those environments. For beyond the ceremony, the 50% recommendations still abide and would be enforced.
Follow-up?
Knowing how transmissible Omicron is and given the calls for circuit breaker measures from the science table, will you consider closing restaurants and bars since patrons don't mask while eating and drinking?
Well, we're going to monitor it cautiously and keep an eye on it on a day-to-day situation, and this is moving rapidly. We're going to be all over it. We're pushing the system on all fronts and all cylinders right now. I do want to address rapid tests. We've distributed 51 million to 45,000 sites. I want to thank the folks at LCBO, and I apologize for the people waiting in line. They disappeared like rapid fire. We're still going to go to the malls, and I understand the malls and shopping malls. Yorkdale was packed getting these rapid tests, so I want to thank them and Square One and all the Christmas markets. Right now, we're asking the federal government, we're in desperate need of more rapid tests. I want to thank the federal government. They're trying their very best. We're expecting 10 million on December 27th. I think they may fall short. We're able to procure ourselves. Out of the 50 million, we procured 21 million of those. 11 million went to the school kids. We were able to get our hands on another 10 million. We're expecting to come in next week. We're going to continue searching around the world for these rapid tests. There's a run on the rapid tests, and the ironic thing is, folks, 3 months ago you couldn't even pay someone to take some of these. Now, I think it's great news that we're distributing this right across the province. So I want to thank everyone. I want everyone to have a safe weekend. On a personal note, I think everyone in the province, or close to it, it seems, has my cell number. I apologize. I haven't been able to get back to people. I am going around the clock trying to keep up with many calls as I possibly can. So if I don't get back to you, I take that personally when I can't get back to people. I want to apologize to you ahead of time. Thank you. God bless. Be safe and be cautious. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.